Hi, this is Pat Moorhead with More Insights and Strategy, and we are here for another 6-5 podcast. And this one is on the road talking about CES. And I'm here with my incredible co host, Daniel Newman from Futurum Research, and our incredible guest, Frank Azer, who I've known for years, Chief Gaming Architect at AMD. Daniel, what does everybody need to know about the show here?
Well, I think we're going to have to ask that to Frank. But if you've been following our Twitter, I think you've been seeing and hearing in somewhat real time the things that have impressed us. Some pretty darn cool autonomous driving demos, a lot of vehicles, a lot of gaming, some serious chip announcements, new PCs, and by the way, I think we've got quite a guest here to actually dive into some of that stuff. But no, it's great to be here on the road. I'm back in Austin. Just got back from CES. If you're out there and you're tuned into this, thanks so much for tuning in. A quick disclaimer, this show is for information and entertainment purposes only. Please do not take anything Patrick, myself, or Mr. Ezor says as investment advice. We are here to tell you what's going on in the market. And I think, Pat, we should also take advantage of having Frank here to talk about some of these big tech megatrends. I mean, it is the beginning of the year. That does
Yeah.
present quite an opportunity. You and I have both been prognosticating, but we got someone here that's got a little experience here in his domain that we should probably lean on.
Yeah, and I gotta tell you though, I wanna start first with, the sexy stuff right out of the gate. I had no idea, what AMD was going to announce. I mean, maybe I got a little sniff of a pre-brief, but, when I watched, the announcement, Frank, online, which, by the way, you were there too, which was cool. I realized, wow, I really like the way that AMD put this together. But what were the big announcements, Frank, at for AMD at the show?
Well, we announced a ton of stuff, but probably what I'm most proud of is we announced, I don't know, like 11 or 12 products, and we did it in 40 minutes. That
Yeah,
was a huge accomplishment. But we announced, I mean, let me see, let me start with, we announced new CPUs, new processors for laptops for this year, our Ryzen 6000 series, the fastest laptop processors we've ever made. And we didn't just significantly improve the core processing capabilities of them, but we significantly improved the graphics processing capability of them, and you can actually play games now on non-gaming laptops using these Ryzen 6000 series processors.
well, and
It's a
you
long
you even
time.
well,
uh,
and you it's RDNA 2, and you've got, don't you have all like the special secret sauce software and stuff like FSR in that too?
yeah, we have our new FSR upscaling technology, which can give you like a 50% plus performance improvement when you turn that on using these new Ryzen 6000 series mobile processors. So you'll be able to pretty much game on any Ryzen 6000 series based laptop out there. You can play Fortnite, you can play Call of Duty, most modern games out there
Yeah.
at full high definition. In laptops, they're going to be 13 millimeters thick, 14 millimeters thick, all the thinnest, most beautiful laptops that you see out there. If they're going to be powered by a Ryzen 6000 series, all of a sudden they're gaming capable. You don't have to go out and buy a huge big gaming rig just to be able to do some casual gaming here and there. So a lot of customers may say, I never play games on my laptops, and that's fine. But now that you can and you have the capability, would you sneak a game in maybe during lunch, or if you're bored waiting in line, or waiting for someone to come into a meeting or so? You at least have the option now. You have the choice. And if you are a gamer and you've always wished that you could get one of these really beautiful, sexy laptops that aren't those thicker, heavier gaming laptops and play some casual games on them, you have a choice now, which we've never had before. So we're really, really excited about that. We've updated all those notebooks too that are launching this year to the latest technologies like USB 4, Wi-Fi 6, PCI Express Gen 4. So they're just completely state of the art, modern. The new laptops start launching in February, just next month, so using these processors. So we're really excited about that. We teased our new desktop processor.
Yeah,
So our Ryzen 7000 series desktop processor, or what do we call it? We called it the Zen 4
that's right.
reveal, which is our next major introduction of our architecture, the Zen architecture. And we announced that that's coming in the second half of this year. So it's just a few months away, and it's going to be incredible. I mean, it's the next ultra high performance desktop processor from AMD. We shocked and awed the world a couple years ago when we launched the 3000 series. and this is now going to be 3 generations better than that. So really excited about that. We introduced another processor that uses our new 3D VCache technology, which makes it the fastest gaming processor available, and going to be available in the market before that next generation one launches. Let's see, we launched a ton of new graphics options as well, for laptops, including graphics for ultra thin laptops, gaming laptops. But we also launched the most affordable modern desktop graphics card that you can get right now. So it's really hard to get a graphics card right now if you're a gamer, and they're really expensive. Well, we introduced a new graphics card called the Radeon 6500 XT at $199, and we're making a ton of them. So really excited about that. It's $50 less expensive than the competition, which is significant when you're talking about a $200 price point. So that's going to be hitting the market on January 19th. And then I introduced a bunch of really cool laptops too, what we call AMD Advantage laptops, which are the best of the best that we have to offer with our OEM partners. We introduced an Alienware laptop, which is the fastest that we're going to make. And we introduced a really cool Asus ROG 14-inch laptop that's like this perfect blend between gaming and all-day productivity. And we introduced a bunch of new software technologies and stuff. So it was just a huge show. It's incredible how much content we packed into those 40 minutes. We're really proud of that.
Yeah, it's certainly you guys are on a totally different trajectory in terms of how many products obviously I was at the company 11 years ago, and the amount of products that you bring out at the rate at which you're bringing them out is my head spins sometimes.
It's incredible, especially when you consider that we're we're doing both things. We're introducing CPUs and we're doing graphics and we're doing ultra high
Yeah.
performance in both categories. Plus, we have everything else we're doing on the server and data center and enterprise side, which it's remarkable. The execution of this company is just phenomenal. I've been here almost 3 years now, and it's just blown me away.
Yeah.
It's a pretty significant continuum. You sort of started off. First of all, I know gaming is sort of where you spend a lot of your time, but very impressive to have that whole offering slate. You could also do publicity, it appears, if you had to in a pinch. Um, but no, I mean, you kind of started at this continuum, and it raised a question in my mind. So I'm going to give you a kind of a chance to talk a little cloud gaming and kind of comprehensively. You talked about these kind of entry, lower, beautiful, thin laptops that could now be used for gaming. I'm kind of interested in your take a little bit about how much market do you see? How much adoption do you see? Are there a lot of people out there that, do you see this as an additional device, or maybe just gamers that are now able to game on a work laptop because they have something that they don't need something else for? And then all the way up to your advantage, it sounds like you're rolling out some things that are really comprehensive for that hardcore gaming community. So, how big is this cloud gaming trend? How big is it going to get, and how much does that, really help expand the TAM and the opportunity for your portfolio?
Well, look, when I when people ask me about cloud gaming, I look at cloud gaming as just one gate of accessibility into gameplay that sits alongside all the other existing gates and the emerging gates that are occurring around access to games. You have consoles being one of those gates. You have your smartphone, your tablet being a gate. You have PCs as being another gate, another platform to be able to play your games. And cloud gaming, it complements all of those different gates. Ultimately, what we're doing with cloud gaming and with all these different options is we're facilitating gaming in all flavors: PC, mobile, console, so on and so forth. And by making it easier, more accessible, by reducing the complexity of getting into the gaming ecosystem, it's proven over time that that's going to breed more gamers. We have over 2 billion gamers now around the world. When I started in this industry about 22 years ago, gaming was called a niche. When
Yeah.
we would say to people, "Hey, yeah, we have this company called Alienware," because that's my background, they thought we were a clothing company. And now you talk about gaming to folks, and it's ubiquitous and it's huge, and they're playing games on the subway, on the train, on the plane, at school. The age groups are just extremely broad. There's no longer the perception of teenagers, and predominantly male teenagers, playing in their parents' garage. Gaming has transcended across every demographic, just about every major geography around the world. and then every single platform by and large that's out there. Cloud gaming has certain benefits because you don't have to download a game. And in some situations, that may be a burden to folks because some of these games could be 50 gigabytes big. And what that translates to is it could translate to having to wait 30 minutes, an hour, or even over an hour to be able to play this game. Another benefit that it offers is that you don't necessarily have to have very powerful hardware in order to be able to play some of these games. You can play it on more simplified hardware. So there's different benefits and values, but then there's also detriments as well. Cloud gaming uses an enormous amount of bandwidth because you're having to download, you're having to transmit all that information, over. You're streaming it instead of playing it back locally. So that consumes a significant amount of bandwidth. And because unlike watching a movie on Netflix or something like that, where it's a passive experience, you press play and there's a buffered amount of content that is transmitted to you. So you can, by and large, have a very good experience when you're watching streaming video or listening to streaming music. Gaming is extremely dynamic in real time. There's no premeditation in any of the content. So if I turn left, I have to transmit the turn left input to the server, and the server has to immediately start rendering the entire scene as I've turned left and then start transmitting that to me. So there's a huge real-time dependency on your bandwidth and your internet connection, and not just the internet connection, but
Right.
even beyond the internet connection, your connection in the home or in the environment that you're in, the last mile, and even within the last 10 feet. If there's any volatility in that connection, or if there's any weak link in that connection, then your cloud gaming experience is compromised. So every platform has its pros and its cons. Ultimately, I don't think there's any one platform that's going to emerge as the dominant that puts everybody else out of business. For a while, we thought consoles were going to do that to PC gaming, and the inverse actually happened. PC gaming is bigger than consoles. So I think they're all just going to coexist. Every company is going to thrive in offering their products and their solutions in across these different gates. And that's what we're seeing. As cloud gaming's prospering, so is every other gaming platform prospering. They're all prospering together.
Yeah. Yeah, Frank, that was a very democratic answer in terms of. Yeah, I
So
mean, it was
should be a
very
politician now too, Dan,
well.
not just
It,
a
it, it was
spokesperson.
it was very kind and safe. And it's funny. I've seen the whole, the NC computer or the network computer that Sun was doing, but it always is the same two things. It's how much data density and the quality and cost of the connection. And I believe that the optimal cloud gaming arrangement, and this is the Pat Moorhead More Insights and Strategy View, will have a GPU somewhere in that last mile. Maybe it's in that brick building. Maybe it's closer, into the network of the ISP, because latency matters. And as content goes up uh, in terms of resolution, in terms of the UI complexities go up, it still gets pretty hard to do. But I've seen some really interesting stuff that is being done out of Korea where they have GPUs on the edge.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm going to
But if I can add to that, if I can
Yeah,
add
yeah,
to that,
please.
Patrick. So going back to the theme of, we launched this new CPU, the Ryzen 6000 CPU, and I said it basically turns non-gaming platforms into all of a sudden gaming viable platforms. Well,
Right.
our AMD Radeon technology is in those CPUs. We're also partnered with Samsung on developing their next Exynos smartphone and mobile tablet chip as well, and that's using our graphics intellectual property. Our graphics are powering Teslas. Our graphics are
Yeah.
powering the current generation and past generation consoles like the Xbox and the PlayStation. So ultimately, to your point is absolutely right. The endpoint is getting a richer amount of processing capability that is going to do two things. One, if you're in a cloud gaming environment, maybe you can enrich that experience. Maybe you can leverage our
Right.
hardware to run our upscaler, for example, to take a 1080p stream to a 4K stream. And that's absolutely a use case that people will be able to take advantage of. But beyond that, the true need, like the necessity of cloud gaming and the value proposition of it, and I'm going to get a little bit less democratic for Dan's sake here, it diminishes as more and more endpoints become gaming capable. And that's what we're seeing is by democratizing gaming capability, like we're doing through our hardware and putting our hardware across all these different gates and endpoints. It's no longer cloud gaming making the difference between you being able to game or not. It now is becoming a convenience factor of if I have a great internet connection, I don't want to necessarily buy the full game, although you can use Game Pass to subscribe instead of having to buy a full game. But if those value propositions appeal to you, then you have an option with cloud gaming. But the problem that it was originally intended to solve, where people don't have gaming devices, and this lights up something, an experience that was impossible for them to have before, that's diminishing with every day as we continue to put more performance hardware out there in the market across all these different form factors.
My last comment, I do like it for continuity, right? And the ability for everybody to play their favorite game on whatever device they want. I think we've got to get the licensing under, you know, fix the licensing challenge. But aside from that, I love it for continuity sake.
Yeah, I agree with you, but cloud gaming, and I'm a big fan of cloud gaming. Like I said, I believe it coexists with all these other endpoints for gaming. But every platform has its licensing issues.
Yeah,
And cloud gaming is not immune to them
that's
either.
right.
Every cloud gaming service out there has games that it offers you and games that it doesn't offer you. Just like every console, just like PC itself. There's games I can't play on PC that I can play on console. So there's no panacea. There's no perfect
Yeah,
solution out there. I mean, the perfect solution would be a platform where every single game ever created in the past and in the future can work across every single device that's created. And unfortunately, we haven't figured out how to solve that yet.
yeah,
It's the responsive web of gaming, and it just moves device to device. You're playing Super Mario Brothers you know, from ages ago, and then all of a sudden you're playing the modern version of it, and just depending on what device you have, what power,
And it's a kind
what
of a
access.
tragedy. If you think of it, Dan, it's kind of a tragedy. Like the saved games that I had on my Nintendo and my Sega and my Dreamcast, they're gone. They're
yeah,
gone. I have no access to them. My kids will never be able to go through that experience. They'll never be able to pick up where I left off. Um, Even digital distribution platforms over the time over PC that have come and gone, it's a tragedy, really. I mean, you lose those assets, you lose those memories and that progress point, if you will. I think that's one of the reasons why PC has actually succeeded so long is because it's the closest thing we get to that ubiquity and that backwards and forwards compatibility and that kind of linear progression preserving itself. But even then, the PC platform's not perfect either.
So you've been the publicist, the politician, and now I want to turn you into an avatar. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on, the metaverse. I've seen some interesting dialogues going on across the web, Frank. I mean, look, people have been doing AR, VR, XR for some time. Data replication isn't really new. Last year, with Mark Zuckerberg coming out, changing the name to Meta, showing we could say sort of a dystopian, futuristic, blended reality. This became a hot topic for CNBC, and now metaverse is suddenly more of a thing than it really is. But it is opportunistic. I mean, look, every company has a story right now. You're hearing them from your competitors. Of course, you guys are probably drumming up the story. You guys being so big in gaming, and of course in the cloud and other places. I'd just love to kind of hear your take on this. How big is this trend? Is it accelerating that much faster because of this new public eye and attention that it's getting? And what is sort of the AMD and the Frank Ezra view on this mega trend?
Well, look, from an AMD perspective, we're going to power all the experiences out there that we possibly can. We power some of the best gaming experiences that are out there, and we power web experiences that are out there, and everything in between, right? Multiple instances on all the different providers. From our perspective, whatever transpires around the metaverse or whatever anybody out there calls it, we want to power it. And we think we can
yeah,
power it better than anyone else, mostly because not only is our technology superior, but we have the benefit of both the CPU and the GPU, the graphics endpoint. Okay. Those two things, AMD is the only company today that builds high performance components across both of those components. We're the only company today that has been shipping tens of millions of units in CPU and GPU across client, server, data center, so on and so forth, right? So we're in a very unique position to be able to power these experiences better than anybody else out there. And because of our history in gaming, we know how to power rich 3D virtual worlds extremely well. And we're on top of all the AAA games, all the esports experiences, all the VR experiences, because that's a huge part
Yeah.
of our client business and our client graphics business. So, we're like, hey, all for it. This is excellent. It's very exciting. It's a very interesting category. But what I tell people is to what I just said, in my personal opinion, the metaverse has been here for like 15 years already. In my opinion, we were just living through it through a 2D panel. But tell me what's going to be so different across the end state of the metaverse as different visions have come out for it and playing World of Warcraft 15 years ago. World of Warcraft, in a lot of ways, and EverQuest and these massive multiplayer online games, in my mind, were the conception of the metaverse. We went in there and we initially started doing quests and then playing games and then meeting people and then forming teams and forming relationships. I know people that have been met and been married through World of Warcraft. And then that's evolved and transpired to all the different MMOs that we have today. What the metaverse will do is I think it'll transcend across it being purely a gaming focused environment where your purpose for why you originally were there was to compete or to play a game, and it'll transpire into a social networking, a communication, a collaboration environment, much like the internet has evolved into what it is today, which is where we communicate, we learn, we entertain, we do all these different things, and it's become core to our lives. I do believe that the metaverse and its ultimate vision will be able to serve a purpose like that for us, purely because I've seen how transformative it has been in gaming and in how we play games. And to me, the difference is instead of watching the metaverse through a panel, now I'm able to be in the metaverse through VR and AR and these supplemental technologies. But even that is not all that brand new. I mean, I was on stage with Palmer Luckey at CES, I don't know, 6 years ago, and we were launching the first VR optimized Alienware PC together between Oculus and us. And I've been a huge believer in this, since then and well before that, since I had my first meeting with those guys when they were still a startup. And I don't see the bridge as being so far between where we've been, where we are, and where we have to go in the future. So that's my personal opinion on it. And from a professional perspective, I think AMD, and of course I'm biased, is in the best position to serve because of our history and our capability around building both CPU and GPU.
I really love that take, bringing in LOL and the community, and the metaverse. I mean, I have to tell you, I'm you surprise me often, and this was another one. I totally understand it, and the only layer I put on that is kind of this 360-degree realism. But hey, we can't talk about the metaverse and throw out a term like that without putting out talking about NFTs. And there's been discussion of NFTs in games, right? And then there's this macro discussion of NFTs, which, by the way you certify them is through blockchain technology, which ASICs and GPUs do a great job managing them. Unfortunately, for the for some of the gamers out there who can't get a hold of cards. But I'm curious, does any of this intersect, Frank, with NFTs?
Y- you know, uh, when these concepts come up and people start using these terms and things, I always try to figure out like, how do I simplify this so that I can
Right.
comprehend it and I can explain it to somebody? And I think I tried to do that with the explanation of the metaverse. When I was thinking about NFTs and I first became aware of them, I got thinking to myself like, does this exist in my life right now? And as I'm thinking about it, my son comes to me and says, Dad, I need $20. I want to go buy something in Fortnite. And I'm like, oh my God, I own hundreds of dollars worth of NFTs. They're all in Fortnite because of my kids, right? So, I think the world of NFTs is already here. If you've ever acquired, achieved, or purchased anything that's a skin or a song or a dance or an achievement or a weapon or anything of that nature in any video game that's out there, then you own NFTs. I think the
Right.
primary difference is that NFTs, the promise of them is to decentralize those assets versus today, all of my kids' Fortnite assets are locked into Fortnite for
Right.
now. But the bridge is not too far either on NFTs. It's the way I explain it to folks is it's a decentralization of assets that if you've ever played a video game or paid for anything in a video game
Yeah.
or achieved anything in the video game, you're decentralizing that. So I think it's very natural. Again, a market of 2 billion gamers, they are familiar with these environments, the metaverse with NFTs. All we're doing to them is saying, hey, we're renaming what you've been familiar with and that you're interacting with every single day today. And we may decentralize it, we may make it broader, we may bring in new use cases like working and education and so on and so forth. But I think for this, the game generation, the gaming generation, these things are very native. I think they're not. This isn't transformative for them. It's just going to be an evolution into what they've been accustomed to for decades here.
You're seeing some of that in the evolution of gaming environments. Of course, Roblox is a kind of an interesting example of where there's a lot of this happening. The NFT craze is a little bit hard to understand. These Banksys selling in the tens of thousands to tens of millions of dollars to own some sort of digital token. I think the market's largely looking at opportunities to decentralize. This is what the blockchain really is all about. A lot of people don't understand that crypto isn't really money. In most cases, it's a project. It's like a different, you're building similar types of assets that are currently centralized. And you're building them in a decentralized manner, but then in
Mhm.
the end, it ends up being semi-centralized by, So it's like this big circle that I think you have a lot of technology, decades of knowledge here on this pod, and we could probably spend 2 or 3 hours, and people would get off and be like, not sure I fully understand that, any better than I started. But that is a great insight. And I do think
Like
one
that.
thing that you said that I'd love to wrap a little bit on here, because I know we got to close this off and we appreciate the time, is just that in the universe that you really are focused in, Frank, I mean, this stuff is not a reach. This is every day. They've been experiencing this. We're going to move to lighter, thinner experiences. And as I always talk about the metaverse, I basically just say it's the immersion of our physical and digital realities. And by the way, we've been
Mhm.
trying this for a few decades now. This is not brand new, but we're so immersed in digital that anything that simplifies it and makes it easier, I think people are interested in. But all I can say is, at least on my behalf, thank you so much. It's super interesting to do this. I love hearing announcements, but I really love getting deep on some of these philosophical things. These are the things that I think people really want to hear about.
Yeah, and I think the confusing part about the metaverse is to a lot of folks and NFTs is less about what we see right now, right, as the next evolution, and it's more about the visions of what's possible 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years from now. And that's where I think things start to get really confusing, but it's normal. I mean, the further out you look, the harder it is to see what's in the horizon, what's in the distance. And, you know, the truth is that there's going to be a lot of misses as you shoot further as well. Same thing in basketball, right? You shoot from the 3-point line, you're going to miss more shots than if you shoot from the free throw line, for example. So, we're going to see a lot of successes, we're going to see a lot of failures, but we've seen that in every major emerging category that we benefit from today, right? Smartphones, like I was just reading the news about BlackBerry sunsetting, right? Like how disappointing that was and how transformative that was for all of us. But look at how things have changed and how they set a foundation, that they innovated in a certain way, and the industry picked up where they left off. And I'll miss them dearly. I could actually type faster on my BlackBerry than I could on my keyboard, and I was very proud of that for a long time. But we're going to see a lot of successes. We're going to see a lot of failures in NFT and in metaverse. We're going to learn a lot from it. I mean, think about the internet 20 years ago. How many of these? It's almost like the cycle repeating itself in a lot of ways. But I think it's extremely exciting. I mean, it's just remarkably exciting. The potential is just incredible. And maybe I'm biased because I come from the gaming background, and every analogy and every explanation I gave you kind of had this gaming spin on it. But I just can't see it any other way. It's almost like NFTs and the metaverse are the gamification of the real world in a sense. It's like to your point, we're merging the virtual and the physical. And What I think the difference though is that I don't think that we will ever get to a point where there are no boundaries between them. And that's what I think kind of the sci-fi movies and things portray. And I think, that may be 40, 50 years from now, and people are trying to chase that. But it's like, hey, guys, like, slow down. There's a million opportunities before you from today to achieving that right now. And if you shoot too far out in the distance and the timing's not right, because timing is a critical factor to success, you could potentially fail, because you shot too far out. So we kind of have to just crawl before we run to that Ready Player One state of where people are kind of envisioning. And I think it's exciting, the amount of innovation, the amount of successes, the amount of failures, everything that's going on in the space. It's what keeps tech so interesting, why we're so passionate about it. I know you guys are so passionate about it, and why you just can't get complacent in this space, not even for a minute.
Yeah, Frank, I love the gaming analogies, and it's not just because I grew up playing games and my first system was a Pong system. And
You're
you know,
dating yourself now.
no, I
Gotcha.
know, totally. And then going all the way to what I thought was immersive with a glide based, the first 3D accelerators that were out there, which was an add-in card to my graphics card. So it's crazy. And I also think that if you look at kids and growing up, they're all gamers, so we understand games and the lessons you can learn from games, and whether that's virtual games or even physical games, I think are great life learning opportunities for all of us. Frank, we have to wrap here, man. I want to thank you so much for coming on. Was really impressed by the announcements that AMD made at CES. But I think Daniel, I appreciated riffing on cloud gaming, metaverse, NFTs, and hearing it straight from Frank Azor. I really appreciate that.
No, thank you guys for having me. It's a pleasure. I hopefully you'll invite me back. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I appreciate the questions. I don't get to talk about this often. It's mostly pitching product and stuff. So this is a lot of fun. So thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, that's what we're all about here. It's about going a little bit deeper. So between insider and on the road, we'll have to have you back for an insider sometime soon. For everyone out there, thanks for tuning in. If you were at CES, great place to hear all about the announcements from AMD, but also to hear all about some of these mega trends that really was what was the underlying theme of CES this year. Now, of course, hopefully next year we'll all be back together. We'll be in the same place. We'll be doing this live somewhere in the booth like we originally intended. But hit that subscribe button, join the 6-5 for our insiders, our summits, our weekly pods, and of course, more great conversations like this one we had here with Frank Azor of AMD. But it's time for us to say goodbye now. So we will see you